Hi guys, it's me, obviously. Since I'm in no way ready to come back full time or anything, I'm just gonna do this little update and I'm gonna talk about a situation, well, the other time when I may have had something, I don't know if you can, I don't know if it was dogman-y or if it was witchy or it was weirdy. That's what it was. And distracting me, walking around in my peripheral vision. I told you about the first time when I was out stargazing, and there was this horrible feeling coming from an area, and then the going inside and the howling and blah. But the second time was much more recent. It was in 2012 in July, and it's more like the sum of a bunch of things, because the things themselves may not be anything. If you just take one of these things, it's probably nothing, but when you think about it put together, it's just weird. I wrote about it in 2012. I wrote it on August 11th, and this started happening mid-July, and then late July there were a bunch of things. It culminated in a thing. Okay, I'm just gonna read this. I thought I was gonna do like a condensed version. It's gonna be a little hard. I'm just gonna read this post to you and show you some photos. And no, they won't be of dogmen. I don't have any cool evidence like that. I'll show you stuff and I'll put text and you'll almost understand. Probably not, maybe. I don't know. Gosh, I talk the way that I write. So I'm gonna read that post to you, and this will be my possibly second time when something has been weird, dogman-like weird, but not at all any sighting or anything like that. Just two howls. Must they howl? Actually, right now there's something weird going on outside. I saw footprints. I mean, people live around here. I know they walk dogs and stuff, but there were footprints, dog prints that were, I don't know where to put this. They were the size of my hand, my palm, like they were this big and canine. And I know there are big dogs, but not around here. I haven't seen a big dog anywhere. Many years ago, like 10 years ago, there was a huge Great Dane in, well, next to me here. Wonderful, huge. He would stand up all the time and put his paws on your shoulders. He was humongous. There have been pit bulls. They're not that big. They don't have that big paws. I don't know what dogs have such humongous paws, and why they would walk around my house here. I know it must be a dog, but they stood out. They really did, and I don't react to regular dog prints, not even when they're big. These were huge. It was 6 inches, a little more than 6. Depends on where you end it, but say 6.5 inches long, and I swear it was that big, but I don't know. Maybe there are dogs with paws that big, probably. What are you doing with the autofocus? Oh, now you're coming. Anyways, what's with the butthole to face thing? Ugh. Is your tail angry? And the poor camera doesn't know what to focus on. So, anyway, obviously, it's a dog. Obviously, it's a dog. It's not you. No. But, like, my hands are about 6.5 inches long here, and they were definitely as big as that. What are you doing? So yes, I love you too. There we go. So anyway, I'm just gonna read this post to you now, and I might talk some more after that. I don't know. Okay, like I said, this took place over a period of time starting in mid-July. Back then I used to take more or less daily bike rides, about 9 miles in 42 minutes. And I was coming back from a bike ride one night when I decided to visit my spot in the woods by the river, seeing as I was close to it anyway. I love my spot. It's in an airy birch forest with a gorgeous river running next to it. I've been to my spot many, many, many times. It's calm and serene and relaxing there. This time, however, I entered the forest with trepidation because it just didn't look right. It was unusually dark, even though it was clear weather and only 9 p.m., which means bright in Sweden in the summer. Yet it was as if the light wouldn't penetrate the canopy, and it's not a dense canopy. These are birch trees. It was like time was different under the trees. Everything just felt off. I got a very strong feeling in my gut telling me not to go in there. But of course I ignored that since I am stubborn and I will not get intimidated. Idiot. So I took about 3 steps into the woods and a fairly large branch cracked loudly somewhere to the right of me, like a young tree, maybe, 2 inches in diameter. If something like that broke, that's what it sounded like. And I was still not going to back down, but I was scared now. So I turned on the camera and started to record everything. I still have that recording. It's not that interesting, but it's weird. I was moving on down the trail, still that weird darkness. Everything looked different somehow. The trees looked gnarlier and more twisted than normal, and it was just weird. Everything was weird. And I noticed some strange whispering noises that were coming from the river. Like really, the river is a very slow moving river without rocks or anything. It's just very smooth. It never makes a sound normally, but it sort of whispered. It went something like that. And I was like, what the heck is that? And I told myself it was fish. Like coming up for air or something. I don't know. I do not understand now how I managed to rationalize away everything that was happening this particular night. So I finally get to my spot, and I could hear the whispering somewhere close, even though I couldn't see anything at all on the river. So I was I was filming all that, and I was mumbling something to myself about the whispering sounds, when this freaky sound comes from what I would estimate to be the entrance to the forest where I went in. It was a very hollow type of call, a yell or a hoot sound. The camera picked it up, but I now think, even though it seems weird, I think it must have been a buck, a deer, but it was weird. This was July, mid-July, and deer mating season is in late fall, but it could have been a frisky buck, I concede. It could have been, but it wasn't an owl. It was not a fox or anything like that. It wasn't a moose.
Oh, in the river. What in the fuck is making that noise?
So, I don't know. It could have been a deer buck, but either way, it was freaky at this time during those circumstances. So, I went back toward the sound like an idiot. But that was the only way to get home. So I went there and I went home, and nothing else happened that time. And then about a week after, I had been biking again, and I decided it was time to get back on that horse, as in go back in those woods. So this time, as I enter the woods, there's nothing menacing, no horrible feeling. The forest looks as it should. It's bright. Nothing feels foreboding. Everything is normal. It was like the time before I walked into another dimension or something, which I actually do say during that video.
Is that proof? Oh my god, I thought I heard it closer. Oh fuck. I heard something crack just when I stepped into the forest, but I thought it was a bird in a tree or something. Oh god, everything scares me today. Even this birch looked scary. Why? Everything looks different. Why does it look like this? This is not the way it normally is here. Did it step into another dimension?
So, everything is normal this time, and I walked to my spot, and everything was peachy, except for these weird arrangements I found. Someone put a strange type of moss in a birch tree and on a stick. And I mean put, it's not just moss growing there. Someone placed it like on the branch of a birch tree. There was this weird moss with sticks in it. And the weirdest part was a stick that had been shoved into the ground with moss draped over it and sticks in it. And I'm going to show you photos of these things. It's not so weird per se. It could be kids. It's just that one, this moss, I don't recognize it. There is one type of moss that it could be, though it looks way too long to be that moss. But there's nothing else it could be. That's the only thing it represents even a little bit. And either way, if it's that moss does not grow in this forest, because this is a birch forest, and that type of moss grows in deep, dark, spruce, pine forests and such. Very strange moss. Very strange to do that. But still, it could be nothing. So, later that night, I was chatting with a friend from Arizona, and it was about 1 a.m. here. And we were talking about this strange moss, and it was just so weird. Oh, ooh, what could it be? Blah, blah, blah. You should go back. Yeah, I should go back. And strangely, somehow we decided that I should go back at 1 a.m., which was probably a good idea from his point of view, since it was daytime there. I don't know how I managed to think that that was a good idea. But I did that. I got on my bike and I started pedaling, and there weren't any cars, nothing. I pedaled fast, and then I ran into this hedgehog, which is exactly the hedgehog that I have filmed and put up here on my channel. It's from 2012. It's I encountered a me, I think I called it. And this hedgehog, I was going quite fast. This hedgehog was crossing the road ahead of me, so I had to stop. And hedgehogs, I am the Cloaked Hedgehog, and I have been for quite some time, so I've been joking about hedgehogs being my spirit animal and such. And in 2012, when this hedgehog popped up, I actually saw that as a good omen, stupidly. And so I filmed that. And when I was done, I kept going until I reached a bridge. The bridge that my river, that river that flows by my spot comes out. And I got off the bike at a lamppost and I started walking the gravel road through the wetlands, which you have to walk to get to the spot where you enter the woods. Now it was the end of July, and it was actually dark for an hour or two at night. So at this point it was really pitch black. Really pitch black. You can't see. I was filming, but you can't see anything at all. I couldn't see anything. I could barely make out the gravel road at all. And on both sides of me were 7+ foot reeds, very dense. So I walked this gravel road for a bit before I start. I mean, every instinct I have was screaming, this is not being brave, this is being an idiot. Go bloody back now. So after a while I just stopped, and I thought, do I dare do this? I just thought, no, I don't. And I started to turn back, and I walked a few steps, and this duck that had been sleeping in the reeds decides now is a good time to start flapping our bloody wings and quacking and making a bunch of noises. So after I'd cursed heavily at this duck for a while and started to regain my breath and my ability to function as a human being, just the second that I really start to relax after this scare, that's when I hear this howl coming from behind me, from the woods where I had been heading. A howl. Yeah. I don't know if I mentioned this. Of course, we have wolves in Sweden, but not so much out here by the coast where I live, on the east coast. Not too far inland, an hour inland, there are wolves more, but they rarely come out here to the coast. It's a thing when they come here. But still, it could have been a wolf. Could have been. I don't think it was. I don't know what the heck it was. But at that point, standing there on that gravel road in the pitch black with reeds around me and a few 100 yards behind me, something was howling. At that point in time, I felt so exposed, so vulnerable, so stupid. What? Why are you here? You knew better. You knew better. You're gonna die out here now just because you were arrogant enough to think that, yeah, you could do this. Oh, you stupid, stupid woman. I almost cried. I actually almost cried. Really, I was that scared. It just dawned on me the ridiculous situation I was in, where I was, and what could be in the woods behind me. Ah, God. And then I don't really remember much more. I walked very fast, but I didn't run. I never run when I'm scared because things chase people who run. So I didn't run, but good Lord, I walked fast. I got my bike. I got on my bike, and I know I filmed behind me because I knew something was going to come up behind me, but it didn't. Nothing ate me. I actually got home. This could have been nothing, right? It could have been absolutely nothing. Could have been a dog or a wolf, even though wolves are really rare. Could have been, though. Really could have been. At that point, though, I didn't care what it was. I really did not want to be there. Oh, gosh. So anyway, got home and just talked to my friend there again in Arizona and managed to somehow calm down. And I am a night owl. I know this was at 1 o'clock. Then, about 4 a.m., I actually went back. I mean, is there an end to my stupidity? I don't. Now, 4 or 5 years later, I sit and I look at this me from 2012, and I'm like, wow, how dumb were you? It's just, I can't believe I went back again. And this time, I had armed myself with a fruit knife. Yes, a fruit knife. So I actually, the sun was coming up at this point, so it was quite bright. There was morning dew everywhere and a little mist around the river. And I'll show you some pictures of that too. So with this fruit knife, I picked the moss off of those arrangements. I had these Blair Witch images in my head. I thought, oh, if there are pieces of flesh inside. But anyway, I picked it apart. There was no flesh inside, and I actually smelled it. It smelled like moss, strangely. And so I don't know. It was moss with sticks in it. Then I went back home, and life went on as usual for a while. And then I was rereading an old book called Werewolves by Elliot O'Donnell. I found something I must have missed earlier, or it didn't mean anything to me at that time, and it made me jump a little bit. It sort of ties into the first forest incident, because in this book, O'Donnell talks about something he calls lycanthropous water. First of all, we know that dogmen are related to water, especially rivers. For some reason, they have something to do with that. And then I find this in the chapter that deals with the werewolf situation in Norway and Sweden. Here, amid the primitive solitude of vast pine forests, flow lycanthropous rivers. And I thought, huh? Lycanthropous river? So started to read a little bit more about what is Lycanthropus River, Lycanthropus water. Well, according to O'Donnell, it differs from regular water in some small details. And, quote, a strange faint odor comparable with nothing distinguishes Lycanthropus water. There's a lurid sparkle in it, strongly suggestive of some peculiar individual life. The noise it makes as it rushes along so closely resembles the muttering and whispering of human voices as to be often mistaken for them, whilst at night it sometimes utters piercing screams and howls and groans in such a manner as to terrify all who pass near it. Okay, had that thing that happened to me not happened to me, this wouldn't have meant anything to me. This is an old book, and I don't know what he's basing his facts on. I read this book just to have read this book, usually, because, well, you have to take it with a grain of salt or a few bags of salt, but this, the muttering and whispering of human voices, and at night piercing screams and howls. Okay, that kind of speaks to me. So, adding to that, this little footprint, it wasn't little, but this footprint that I found there, I was trying in my mind to make light of the whole situation. I didn't want to dwell on any strange canine-ish footprints in the mud. But all of those things put together, the whispering bloody river, and it really, 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 really whispered. I heard it all the time. And I have never ever heard that before. And I've been there 100 times at least. I never heard it sound like that before. It didn't look strange. It was muddier than normal. It didn't have any lurid sparks, as he's talking about, or sparkles even. It was, I mean, the level of water, it was high. I remember there was a lot of water in the river. I think I made a comment.
A lot of water in the river.
What if a Lycanthropus river isn't Lycanthropus all the time? What if any river can turn Lycanthropus? What if water is strange as it is? We know that. And it's closely associated with a bunch of supernatural phenomena. And what if it sometimes changes? If you take this river with its mumbling, and you take the moss and the strange sticks in the moss, and God only knows what that was. I later found it on another tree as well. And the footprint, and the hedgehog, and the night visit with the howling. I mean, if you take everything together, it might be something, but it might also be nothing, like I said in that post. It's just weird. But whatever it was, it actually spooked me enough to not go back. I have been back twice since 2012. I used to go there at least twice a week. I loved that place. I just don't go there now. I don't feel the same. It doesn't feel right anymore. I don't know. I can't shake what happened. I just can't. I go other places, but not there anymore. I went there like a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago. I went there during the day, and before that I think I went there once last year, and that's only, or was it last year or the year before that? I think twice I've been there since 2012. It's just wrong. And it's all surrounded by everything a dogman likes. There's a river, there's deciduous forest, there is wetlands. It's almost like a swamp in parts of this area. It would be ideal for them, but I don't know. It was weird, but it might be nothing. It's probably nothing. Just forget about it. But that was the second thing. And now there's the third with strange footprints, but those are probably from dogs. So that's just a little bit of an update now, just so you know that I am in fact still here, and the stuff has been happening and it's pretty much over, but the ramifications are still in effect. Okay. And until next time, be safe and take care, and I'll see you.